What's up, my Archfiends of Chaos? Kid Roast Chaos with the Gamer, and we'll be talking about some Magic the Gathering. So, this will only go for people who play Magic the Gathering or is a fan of Final Fantasy. Talking about the Final Fantasy Commander set. Now, I have made a whole playlist of me playing older Final Fantasies, at least the 3D ones, just to commemorate the release, because this is a big release. An expensive one at that. But I gotta be honest, I've actually got back into Magic again because of Final Fantasy. I really do like this. I really do like this set that just came out. I think the cards are well balanced. Now there are some cards that are a little overpowered than others, and there are some cards that are, let's see, super expensive. Such as the Sephiroth I need for my Genova green and black deck. Because if you didn't know, Commander can be just any legendary creature. And it has to be a legendary creature in order to be a commander. Which is good which I gotta be honest, Magic kept it kind of simple with that. Rather than other card games has. And I like the fact that they kept it simple, that you can just choose anything. Because, to get yourself a commander deck for Final Fantasy VII alone, not the other Final Fantasies, you're talking about 75 cheapest to $100. And that is just on the minimum, depending on the card shops you shop at. And it is ridiculous, in my opinion. They've done this before with the Lord of the Rings set, the, Fallout set. And I think there was, I can't remember if there was a set before, but either way. And I'm glad they put a lot more pop culture stuff in the Magic the Gathering, getting more people into Magic the Gathering, because Magic the Gathering is one of those acquired taste card games. Like I said, last time I played Magic the Gathering was 2017, when I played a Planeswalker Nissa deck. It was a pre-con, so it wasn't no tournament deck or something special. I did add some stuff like Sylvian Ranger and stuff like that in it, which I just, took apart and added to my commander, because the one thing I do like with the Final Fantasy set too, you can also play with your other Magic cards in it, as long as it goes in the color of black or green. If you are black or green or whatever color you play, you have to have those colors, which is very good because it's expensive as hell to get the Final Fantasy stuff. In fact, to be honest, when I built my deck by buying commons. I went to this card shop called Victory Road, and they had some of the commons, like the spells and the sorceries that I could use, and then some other Final Fantasy stuff from other Final Fantasy games that's in the set. Like I got a green Torgal that will work well with my increase on resources, because green is about increasing your resources and your life. Green's about getting your life back, so it makes sense that's the case. And Genova makes sense with that as well, since her cells are inside every single, every single first class soldier. Might be second class, but either way, the premise is the same. Multiplication of resources. That's exactly what this is all about with the Genova Commander deck I have made. I still yet to play to see what it's like, but it is nice that the Final Fantasy stuff is compatible with other Magic the Gathering sets, as long as it's the right color. And I gotta be honest, Wizards of the Coast has nailed it with that, because it's made that a lot better and more playable, and I like that. You don't have to go ahead and spend your $100 or $25 to get the 2-player deck set, and then just pay $5 or $6 for a commander card already, when you could just go to a card store, buy a common commander somewhere from the sets at a local card store like Victory Road. I wouldn't say Collector's Cash, because people have already bottomed out, and scalpers already went and bought all the Collector's Cash sets for Final Fantasy, because I looked for the same Vincent I've ordered for the, which I'm glad I ordered the Vincent. I'm glad I ordered the Black Vincent, because even though it's the common one, it's not the art, it's not the Surge foil. I want the Surge foil, but the Surge foil is going to be displayed in my glass case. That's never coming out of a display. In fact, I'd probably go and get that graded if I got a Surge foil Vincent, just because Vincent's my favorite Final Fantasy character of all time. But The thing is, I personally would not, go get out of my way to go get the search for. But I did order a common Black Vincent when it was $2.55, which is pretty good. I only got the one right now because it's the last one that this card shop from eBay had. But I did that on purpose. I did that because look how expensive everything else is. I waited too long to get the Sephiroth, and now the Sephiroth I need for that deck is $75. Which, again, I'm not paying $75 for cardboard unless I plan to go to real tournaments and actually play, which I can't imagine how long Commander tournaments are, considering you need 100 cards to play Commanders. So it's like, that's the thing. It's almost not worth it unless you really are that serious. And I'm talking about dead serious. I'm talking about so serious that... Which the sets are pretty good as they are, don't get me wrong. But if you do have a chase card you need in your decks, I'd get it when it's a lower price before it gets any higher. Because scalpers are going to probably get out of their way to get this stuff. It's no joke. That's why I missed out on the Sephiroth and the good deal. And I'm talking about just the common one. Not the search foil, not the art, just the black Sephiroth that turns into like a safer Sephiroth. Which would be needing for my Genova deck. And because I got the sorcery stuff attached to that Sephiroth. It's just, or I could wait till that bottom's out and something better comes out. Or maybe the next Magic the Gathering set comes out. But if you really are die hard to get into the Final Fantasy Commander set, you don't need to spend the 70 or 80 bucks on the Commander decks. Or the 25 on the 2-player decks. You could buy a bunch of commons from card shops that have commons, that have extras they're willing to part away. Or go to eBay or TCG Player. And then if you already have a Magic the Gathering, decks, just put it together to make a Commander deck. As long as it aligns with the same colors that you have. And remember, the Final Fantasy sets can work with other Magic the Gathering stuff. Just as long as it's the same color. Now, if you're going to play tournament, yeah, you might need to change some stuff because they got rid of stuff like Madness and stuff like that if you have cards that do Madness or anything else. But if you're just trying to play Commander with your friends at your friend group every other Friday or Saturday or whatever, or you have a Magic the Gathering group, then you could just take your old Magic the Gathering decks, get up to 100 cards in them, so use up all the cards in your binder, and use up all the Final Fantasy singles that align with your color, and then build yourself a Commander deck and have fun. But for tournament play, I can't say this is going to be good for tournament play, because the thing is, they have more rules on stuff, and like I said, some formats, I think with Magic, you can only play the newest set, so... At this point, you really are stuck with the Final Fantasy set. So you're gonna be spending some big boy money. You're gonna be spending some big boy money on Final Fantasy related stuff, on Final Fantasy cards. So just keep that in mind when you get into the Commander. But if you're just trying to have fun with your friends on every Saturday who has a Commander deck, just pull out one of your couple of old Magic decks and, make it into, if you have Magic cards in your binder from your old collections, just put it together, buy some Final Fantasy singles that you can't get right now, and see what you come up with, and see how well it does. But if you can actually splurge on the Commander decks and stuff like that, then go right ahead. If you have disposable income where you can actually just go and throw away money like that, and you have it like that, then you know what? I would just say just buy the one Commander deck based off the Final Fantasy you like. Whether it's the 6, 10, 14, or 7. I'm sure they're going to come out with other ones too. I'm sure there's going to be an 8, 15, and 16 Commander. I don't think they're done with this set. And this set is sold really well. In fact, it's a second to Pokemon. The only thing that the scalpers did is made it more popular, but it's also been harder to get stuff too because of scalpers. But scalpers have touched this market as much as Pokemon. Not in the same way where they're ready to go, throw Tekken fights in the middle of Costco or Targets for them, but enough that, it's one of the main reasons why the Sephiroth I'm looking for is $75 just for a single Sephiroth, and I'm top of the comet, no search foil, no alt art, none of this stuff. So, keep that in mind. If you're gonna, the best way to go is, like I said, buy a bunch of Final Fantasy singles that align with your deck, attune it, and then just, put to whatever colors you have with the deck that you make and play with that. And if you're just trying, like, let's say you build a Cloud deck, you could just buy the Commander card Cloud and then buy the singles. Be a little bit cheaper than this stuff, but that depends on what you're trying to do and what build you're trying to go for. But it is actually really worth divulging into, and like I said, if you have the money for this stuff, this is not a bad product to go. But keep in mind, the scalping market has touched this as, this is the second close to the popular card game set next to Pokemon. So understand the scalpers kind of saturate the market in a high stakes way. So beware with what you see in the market and understand that but I'm sure there's some stuff will go down. I'm sure the Sephiroth I'm looking for would be going down. But glad I ordered the Vincent. Even if it's just I can only win one, that'd be better than nothing. Especially because I got the Limit Break card and some other stuff that could actually help that Vincent for my black part of the deck. So, and I really ran a black and green deck back in the day. My Nissa deck wasn't just a regular Nissa; it did have black in it because there were some cards in there that was really good. And all in all, being a Final Fantasy fan, and they made the cards match the abilities of the characters in the games too, to some degree. So they did study up on their lore, which I gotta be honest. At this point, I will allow Magic the Gathering, I allowed Wizards of the Coast to touch any IP they wish, that they so see fit. Now, I will say, if for Wizards of the Coast, so they can learn the lesson, I would try to, cut back on the scarcity with cards and stuff like that, so the scalpers don't ruin it for everybody else. But I would let them touch any IP. In fact, I kind of want to, if it's possible, I kind of want a Soulsborne, set for Magic the Gathering. I'll even go out of my way to buy a Soulsborne Commander deck, depending how expensive it is at the time, because Commanders are getting expensive. And I guess because they have to print whatever they can. And also the problem is that there's a lot of FOMOs going on. If you don't know what FOMO means, it means fear of missing out. Because they can only print so much with the IPs, then, copyright will say, okay, you can't print no more cards, so I understand. But Final Fantasy set, whether you're a Magic person or a Final Fantasy person, this is the set to get into. This is the set to get you back on track. And as a guy who played card games on top of loving Final Fantasy, to the point where my original channel was nothing but Final Fantasy theories, this is a good set. And I hope they do touch Soulsborne. I think Soulsborne would be good under their jurisdiction, So, I would say, may the crystal be with you. And if you could get into the Final Fantasy Commander set, I would do it, man. That's why I got a whole playlist of Final Fantasies I'm playing right now, just to get myself back into the action and return to Magic with my Genova Commander deck.